Hello everyone, welcome to another Page One Power webinar. My name is Mike Bryant. I'm so glad that you could be with us here today. We've got a special, very unique webinar because it comes from a unique perspective. This is the first of its kind that we have done. We have with us a couple people from in-house, but then also one of our clients that we've worked with for a few years now, and we've got some history, we've gone over some bumps, and we've learned a lot together. And so we wanted to pass that information on to you just to see where we're coming from and to help you make some decisions in your own SEO efforts. And so without further ado, we'll get right into it. Page One Power is broadcasting live from Boise, Idaho. That's where we are headquartered. So hello. We do have some snow in the mountains finally, and beautiful day here. Our guest, as I mentioned, is none other than Rand LaMarinelle. He is the Vice President of Marketing at Shred Nations. Rand, hello, welcome.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
If you want to take just a moment and let the people know your history at Shred Nations, but also your previous history in SEO before you got to that company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my digital marketing career in the car business in 2004. So that would make coming up on my 13th year doing SEO and SEM. I owned my own agency at one time, and I also worked at a SEO agency as a strategist, among other positions, and ended up here at Shred Nations back at the beginning of 2014. So I've been doing SEO for quite some time, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Welcome. Glad you could be with us. Also joining us is right here in-house our Director of Sales, Dan Beardall. Hello, Dan.
Mike, thanks for joining everyone. I'm the Director of Sales here at Page One Power. I oversee the onboarding of new link building campaigns to ensure we're positioning each and every project for the very best possible results, and we'll talk a little bit later today what we mean by results. But I've been with Page One Power since November of 2012. I've witnessed quite a few changes in that time, not only within our organization as we've experienced some pretty major growth, but also in the industry as a whole. As many of you know, SEO and link building in particular changes quickly, and some of you may be familiar with the football term of keep your head on a swivel, and that's how it is for us every day. We love what we do, and we hope the discussion today provides some clarity and insight into what makes link building successful.
And also we have with us Nick Katsianis. He is a project manager and also a big part of our new departmental changes here within Page One Power. And he has worked firsthand with Rand on this account as well. Welcome, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Nick, if you want to let people know your history with Page One Power and some of the specialty industry niches you've worked on.
Sure. So I actually started out at Page One Power working with Dan on the sales side of things, and it wasn't too long before I got scooped up by our production manager and moved into project management, and I've been in that in about 3 years. So altogether about 4 years at Page One Power, and started out with Rand from day one up until current day today of working on various projects with them. We've had a few different strategies over the last couple of years that have led to a lot of success, and I'm looking forward to discussing some of that with the rest of the audience here. So yeah, thanks, Mike, for the introduction, and looking forward to getting going here.
Appreciate it. Well, that is myself. I'm the event coordinator, and I'll just ask the questions and then get out of the way and let the experts answer. So we'll jump right into this first question. I'm going to have Rand tackle this one first from his point of view. What are the signs of a valuable partner in a link building campaign? What do you look for? And are the, you know, what are the red flags to watch out for? Rand, you did some shopping, I'm assuming. You decided to work with us. Tell us about that history and that process.
Yeah, so what are the signs of valuable partner? I'll kind of take this as piece by piece, and I'll try to keep it succinct so that my partners in crime here can also answer this question. But what are the signs of a valuable partner? I think you know within the sales process, really, you get some good signs there. You know, are they taking the time to really understand your business? Are they asking the right questions? Are they trying to understand where you are and where you want to go as far as using their service is concerned? And what are your goals ultimately? What are your goals for in this case Page One Power, or what are your goals as a business? So I think those are the types of things that that I look for. Also, on a personal note, you know, that trust building starts right away. You want to feel like whoever you're talking to, whether that's Nick or Dan, you know, is personally vested in you. Are they asking questions about you, who you are, what your philosophies are, and things like that? So I think those types of things are very important. Red flags, anybody that tells you that they can get you rank in a month via link building is a red flag, or guarantees any time frame or any ranking. We're specifically talking about link building here. Those are definitely red flags. Doing this for a long time, and there's nobody that can guarantee that or should even guarantee that. And also a couple other things. I think you really want a partner. You want somebody that is wanting to partner with you, or an extension of your in-house team. Here we have 12 people that are on our marketing team, and I think, you know, for me it was important for the agency that we hired, as far as link building was concerned, to be part of our team, to interact with other members of the team. For example, you know, Nick, you've interacted with Chad quite a few times, and so I wanted an extension of our team, not just, you know, somebody in Boise, Idaho that we decided to hire to build links for us. So I think those are the main things.
Thanks. I'm going to pass this over to Dan, just in regards, because, you know, Dan deals with this on a daily basis, where there's business, new business that's knocking on our door, and we have to ask ourselves some hard questions, sometimes say no. Dan, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Rand mentioned what he looks for in an agency, and there are certain things that we, as a link building agency, look for in potential partners or clients as well. You know, link building is sometimes somewhat simple in theory, but complex in execution. So as Rand mentioned, we look for more of a partnership than just a typical client-vendor relationship. We look for partners that can communicate, that can be involved, can give feedback, partners that we can collaborate with and create unique strategies with. You know, every website is different, and therefore each link building campaign is different and carries with it its own unique sets of challenges, options, strategies, etc. So we need to be willing to work together to find the best avenues for success, and this is done by understanding the industry, the business, the competition, the target demographics, etc., and becoming, as Rand mentioned, an extension of our client's team to do the heavy lifting of you know, additional research and outreaching to webmasters and building those relationships, and essentially earning links based on the value of our client's site and what it brings to the table. I think it's also very important for our partners and clients to understand the type of link building that we do. It's very strategic. It's an organic approach that can really take time to build. You know, good link building isn't an effort designed to generate quick results. It's more of a long-term, sustainable, yet very important initiative that requires adaptation, creativity, and more than anything, patience. As Rand mentioned, you know, anybody that says it's going to happen quickly or in a certain time frame either doesn't understand it or is kind of living in the good old days. But link building has changed and evolved over the years, and we still today have conversations with people that are kind of living in the past of the spamming link building world. And so it's crucial for us to be on the same page with our partners as to what works, what doesn't work, why we do things the way that we do. And there is definitely a lot of trust involved, and this trust typically evolves and grows over time as we build that relationship and prove the value of what we can do.
Nick, I'm hearing a lot of combined messages from both sides, from the sales and from the client, shopping for somebody to work with. But one thing that popped out to me was taking the time to ask the right questions to get to know the uniqueness of who you're working with. What's kind of the process that you go through, when you are trying to learn what makes this client unique, what makes them, getting to know their needs in an individual basis?
Well, when, after we've gone through the sales process and then it comes to my desk and we're, basically kind of going through the sales process again, kind of requalifying it, and I'm learning about, okay, what was said in the sales process and learning about the business and what more can I dig into. And I think a key component of that is really over communicating. That's, you can never over communicate, especially early on in the process of learning about your clients and the goals that they have, and developing, a relationship from that point, and really, challenging our clients of learning about their business just as much as they would learning about our agency, and taking the time to have plenty of follow-ups of, hey, we're kind of, we're trying to learn a little more about your business in this particular area. Could you elaborate on it? And one sign that I see time and time again of clients who become long-term partners is follow-up to those. When we'll have clients that come in the door sometimes that they just want links. They don't want the partnership. They aren't helpful. They don't help us learn a little more about their industry, because they're the ones who are experts in it. We're not. We have to learn about it. And the ones that really exaggerate on that, just as Rand and Dan were talking about, of learning the business, learning competitors, learning the marketplace, the ones that help us get up to that point faster are typically the more successful campaigns, and in turn longer term partnerships.
I'm going to move forward here real quick. Nick, just to follow up, we've heard red flags mentioned as far as people that want short-term results and also guarantees. Any other red flags that you can think of that pop up at the beginning stages?
Red flags, man, in SEO, there seems to be a lot of them, just based on the history of SEO, and the instant results, the fast results, the rankings, the traffic over a month or a couple months. That seems to be the big one. From production and once we get the project going again, a lot of it goes back into, for me, it's a lot of communication, and when we're underway, have a project going, sometimes we need prompt replies or need to get answers from our clients or things done. And when that doesn't happen, and it tells me clients might not be fully vested into the partnership, and that's typically when you see despite what a client might be telling you, that's when sometimes we see that they really are looking for short-term results, and they're hoping link building will get them there in the short run, and that's not that's certainly not the way to go about it. And so for another red flag in terms of production, once a campaign gets going, that's one that I see recurring quite often, I'd say.
Well, obviously you have to be flexible with your communication, because everybody's going to have their favorite, whether it's a phone call, an email, or a Slack type conversation. a chat online. So flexibility on our end, we do a good job of customizing our abilities to the needs of our clients. But question 2, I'm going to have Dan start out with this. Just getting those expectations out there, and then asking the questions, finding out what the goals are. We touched on this already a little bit, but what's the best way that you set up a new client to understand what they can expect from us as far as reporting and reaching those goals?
Sure. Each and every link building campaign or any SEO initiative really is going to be measured by some sort of success, whatever that might be. And so I think the most important thing here, and really what we strive to accomplish very early on in conversations about a potential link building endeavor for a particular website, is what is that definition of success, or what metrics will we be gauging the success of this campaign by, as well as who is going to be measuring the results. We work a lot with agencies as well as in-house SEOs who typically have to prove the value of the initiative to someone else. So we're constantly up against this battle of proving ROI with something that is sometimes quite unpredictable and volatile, as is most any SEO initiative. So making sure we understand the specific objectives and goals of the site overall from the get-go allows us to be on the same page in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, and we can then backfill a custom game plan and a strategy that will put us in the best position possible to accomplish those goals. And like I said earlier, what makes a link building campaign with a partner is so successful is clear, consistent communication. I think many folks are hesitant to outsource something like link building to a third party, be it due to a bad past experience or whatnot, but we talk with literally thousands of companies and SEOs every year, and it seems like a big hurdle for most of them in the past was communication. They didn't know what their link builder was doing or where they were getting links or what kinds of links they were getting. There was no reporting, there was no follow-up, there was no collaboration and creativity together. So for us, that interaction and communication with our partners is imperative and pretty much required. I mean, it's very hard to be successful without it. So again, understanding what the ultimate goal is, we're building links because that's our job, but we're building links because we're hoping for something greater in terms of organic search improvement.
So Rand, jumping over to you on this second question, you were the SEO manager before you even started working with us, so you were already measuring different factors on your website traffic. How do you combine link building campaign reporting into your existing measurements?
Yeah, I think, for us it was pretty easy. We had a very specific set of pages that we wanted to see growth in. And for us, the KPI, was pretty simple. Well, the line of KPI wasn't that simple, but it's one that's fairly common, which is, we want rank to drive traffic, to drive conversions, to drive revenue, to drive profit at the end of the day. But it all started with, you've got to get the traffic. So it was very easy for us to say, hey, this is the set of pages that Nick and I had agreed to build links to, and then measure those, whether that be in analytics or, our custom proprietary system that tracks that stuff all the way from start to finish. It was pretty easy. But, again, Nick and I had this participatory thing where it's like, he understood our business and understood, where we needed to get revenue. We were able to come up with a set of pages that we really wanted to focus on. And I think it was important that we also established at the beginning we were looking for quality, not necessarily quantity. Of course, both are good. you know, you want a certain amount of link velocity, but also you want to build a certain amount of equity with your campaigns. But for us, you know, it was kind of, you know, it was a couple of years ago, the beginning of the semantic web, you know, spamming and jamming, as we used to call it back in the day, was not going to happen anymore, where you could just build a ton of links and you would rank. So we were really looking for quality, and that all kind of came out of conversations that Nick and I had about, you know, where to go and what to do and what we were looking for. And then, of course, you know, Nick provided reports of what sorts of links we were getting. And I remember a few conversations distinctly at the beginning where I, you know, had to tell Nick, look, it's not enough, or look, these aren't high enough DA or aren't relevant enough links. And I think, you know, having that open line of communication is important when you're talking about expectations and goals and KPIs, and vice versa. You know, I expect Nick to say to me, Rand, you know, you're an absent parent right now. You need to participate. We can't get this done without answers to these questions or without some kind of direction. And so, you know, to touch on the last question a little bit too, that open and honest communication has been vital to making our campaign successful over the years.
So jumping over to Nick on reporting, you know, you're getting things started. Like, is there a conversation you have before you even begin that says, this is what our reports include? Do I need to make any changes?
Yeah, I mean, we have a kind of a standard set of reporting and KPIs that we track, but every client is different for us, and that's the big thing with Page One Power, is that we're custom tailored to really what our clients need, right? In terms of link building and SEO. And so, I mean, there are things that you know, there are other little side projects we do, or other things that I might report to with Rand that don't fall within, you know, here are the links and the pages that they're going to and the anchor text we use, and it might be like, hey, here's a particular site we found that is going to require a whole different strategy to develop, you know, to build links on, and we're going to need some help from your team on it. And we develop that in our own way that's going to make sense for us to both understand. And the biggest thing that I always strive for is simplicity, really, and make things, you know, as easy as I can for Rand, because we're you know, while link building is a big part of SEO and rankings and traffic, you know, it's also one piece of the pie, and it's, you know, as simple as I can be, and making Rand's life easier on the link building front, I think the better. You know, that's really one of my philosophies in reporting and KPIs, is keeping it very, you know, plain, and, well, maybe not plain, but simple and easy to understand, so that you know, there's not any kind of, you know, again, miscommunication between the project at hand and what we're really trying to achieve.
Is it easier? I don't want to use the word easy, but is the conversation a little more productive when you're working with somebody that already has SEO background like Rand?
Absolutely. It's, you know, there's kind of two camps, I guess. We get, you know, clients like Rand to come in are a lot of fun to work with, because we can kind of, you know, discuss SEO on maybe a little higher level and be on a little different understanding with each other than when we have, you know, maybe like a smaller, maybe a mom and pop shop that they've never really done a whole lot of SEO. Maybe they have a new website and they are just learning about, oh, hey, it looks, you know, it says I need links here. And those opportunities are a lot of fun too, because you get to educate your clients on what we do and why it matters. And anybody with a thirst of knowledge, you know, can, I think they get excited about SEO. It's a very fast changing industry that is pretty interesting, and it can bear a lot of fruit if you do it the right way, you know, and that's really, at the end of the day, that's a big win for me, is when our clients are happy and making money, I'm happy as well. That's really what I, you know, get out of my job at the end of the day here.
So we talked about measuring in the previous question a little bit. I'm going to stay with Nick on this. You know, as far as that ongoing campaign, you know, over the long haul, you get those links starting to come in. You see the results of those over time. What is it that sets apart, you know, working with somebody long term versus just that short 1-3 month window?
That's a great question, Mike. And what really sets them apart, it's pretty, I almost feel like I've been doing this long enough, it's pretty easy to tell when you have a willing partner come into our organization that wants to have a long-term partnership. You know, I mean, the like I said earlier, you know, over communicating, they're prodding us, they're asking a lot of questions, learning just as much about our business, you know, at P1P as we are about theirs. Another part of that is meeting deadlines, you know, building trust and having honest conversations with each other up front. And then another big part of that's very, very apparent to me is when we have clients come in, like Rand, you know, we've discussed this, is when we have clients come in the door and it's the first month or two, we're not looking at, you know, the end goal as much as the project at hand. You know, we're not looking beyond the goal line before the project really even gets started. We're focusing on okay, let's establish our short-term goals here over the next 2 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 9 to 12 months, that we know, you know, if we do these things, we believe we're going to get to this part down the road. And establishing that you know, roadmap ahead is a pretty big signifier to me that, okay, this is somebody that really does want to partner with us and cares about the, you know, SEO health of their website and doing things the right way and having a very intentional strategy rather than just coming in the door and saying, hey, I learned that, you know, links are going to help me get rankings and traffic and revenue and increase our bottom line. And so clients that come in and say, yeah, just, you know, send me the links, you know, once a month and we're good to go. You know, that's a little bit of a red flag to me, and that's not really how you set a campaign strategy in the first place. It takes, you know, at least really, you know, the first month in a campaign with Page One Power is really about developing a good strategy, and coming in and just, you know, shotgun approach, getting links right out of the gate is something we can do because we're pretty good at building links, but it's not the right way about going into a long-term partnership.
I'll bounce this off of Rand. When you are looking at metrics over the long term, you know, how do you measure progress versus just that bottom line profit dollar that goes to the head of the company?
Well, obviously, you know, there's a number associated with the cost of doing business in a partnership, right? So let's be frank and honest here. It does come down to revenue and profit, but at the same time, really, we're looking for growth. And again, it's very easy for us because, you know, Nick and I have conversations about what the strategy is, and we have a specific set of URLs that we target, that we kind of collaborate on. And so for us, it's pretty easy to see growth. I mean, is traffic growing? Are our ranks growing? And there's essentially, if your goal of if the goal of the strategy is to produce revenue, and you're getting rank-in traffic to the URLs that are revenue producing, I mean, you're going to produce the revenue over time. So really, we're looking for incremental growth. You know, it's not necessarily a certain percentage or anything like that. We're just looking to see that, you know, the trend line over time is growing. And, you know, we kind of bounce around a bit, to be fair to Nick. So, you know, measuring it today is one thing, but measuring it in 3 months is another thing, and so on and so forth. If you're building links today, I'm not going to measure tomorrow and say, well, where's my growth? You know, this, I'm going to say this out loud, but this obviously depends on your industry and how competitive it is, and especially on the internet. But we like to kind of go in 3-month cycles. If Nick and the Page One Power team are building links today, I try to look at it in 3 months, and then maybe 4, but most likely more like 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And you can really see what we've been working on and what our strategies have been if you take a look through something like analytics, or if you take a look through something like our revenue that ties directly back to a URL. It's pretty easy to see where you've been working.
Dan, jumping over to you on this, obviously you're hearing, you're talking with a lot of different people from different industries every day, and there's a lot of different expectations that come in the door that are fresh, but what are some of the communications channels that you try to help set up to, deliver the message of how we measure here at Page One Power?
Sure, and yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of conversations with folks from all different backgrounds, all different knowledge and experience levels. We go to trade shows, we have these webinars, and we talk to a lot of people. And one of the biggest things is setting the right expectation, and there is a certain component of education to that we we like to explore that, and if it's an opportunity for us to educate folks and kind of explain to them how link building has evolved and how it works and why. Again, some people are kind of stuck in their old ways, and it takes a little bit of educating to really get them to the point where they understand how it works and that it's not a quick win. It is kind of a long-term progression. And so, as Rand mentioned, it's all about growth and progress. It can take time to build, and it happens at varying levels. But it's, we kind of compare it to working out, right? You go to the gym every single day, but you experience results over time. And so it is with link building. And we've sometimes jokingly talked with people about being #1 in Google is kind of like a big game of King of the Hill. You try to get there, and once you're there, somebody's trying to take it over. And so this is why it's important to have these discussions about it being built over time. And not only do you want to achieve certain results, but you want to achieve them and maintain them. And that can be part of the strategy as well. Once we accomplish X, Y, Z, how are we going to maintain that? How are we going to keep a leg up on our competition and whatnot? So these are all conversations that, again, we have early on to make sure we set the stage for, okay, it's going to take, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's going to take a little bit of time, but once we build it up, once we gain that momentum, we certainly would hope to maintain that and keep that pace.
Well, I'm going to jump over to our Q&A right now and just open this up to the audience. Using your control panel here on GoToWebinar, you go to the questions tab, and then you can submit a question direct to us. Feel free to use that at any time. Also, the hashtag P1P webinar, feel free to use that on Twitter and communicate to us that way on these topics. The one thing I've heard mentioned is a couple times at trade shows, Rand, that you've been in attendance at the same shows as us, that you've actually stepped in and kind of answered questions kind of basically in place of our team, because your point of view is so unique, being somebody who has worked with us over a long period of time. And so those are the type of questions that we're hoping to hear from the audience. Just what are your pain points? What are your decision? What was it that boils your decision down when you're wanting to pull the trigger on using an outside company to build links for your website?
Well, I can certainly tell you what my pain points are. Number one is Google.
Thank you for
So,
saying that.
you know, B number two is Bing, but they don't have any market share. But no, yeah, I'm happy to answer any of that kind of stuff from the audience.
Well, we've got one that just came in from Remington, and he says, for a company that's looking to do white label link building services, can you speak to the advantage of working with a U.S.-based firm like P1P instead of an offshore company? Prices are significantly less when you go overseas. How does it correlate with a poor performance?
There's a fun one for you, Rand.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, Remington. So to backtrack a little bit, I have quite a bit of experience both in India and the Philippines in a number of endeavors, from content to all the way to citation building, which is a little different than link building, and I won't get into that right now. But yeah, so I think the basic answer to that question is quality, period. You know, you get what you pay for, and it certainly rings true when going overseas for any type of internet service. I'm not saying that there aren't situations in which you can use overseas partners to help you accomplish something from a digital marketing perspective, because there are situations. But from a link building perspective, especially when you get into link building from a content perspective, you need that quality. My experience overseas is that they know the language and can speak the language good enough to get around and good enough to communicate with you and get out of you what you need and want from them. But when it comes to writing the language, there's a very large gap. So needless to say, that content experiment we did overseas didn't work out so well, and we don't do that anymore. And actually, I've actually done that more than once, the content experiment, with more than one company and actually more than one country. So I think that's my basic answer, is you get what you pay for. And of course, you know, it is cheaper, a lot cheaper. But again, I think I stated earlier, my goal with Page One Power was to get quality, relevant links, not necessarily links. So again, it depends on what you're looking for and what the purpose is. And again, they're very good at certain things and not very good at others. But I would caution you to think about that very carefully before you did that, just because of the price. It's not always about the price. I mean, I could go buy my wife a $500 ring to get engaged, or I could buy her a $2,000 ring. I mean, you're going to notice the difference. It's the same concept. So caution would be my answer to that.
We've got another question that just came in from Josh, and I'll send this to Nick first. Have there been months where the link building haven't brought in any results? Presuming yes, how is this dealt with on the agency-client relationship? Great question. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, if, you know, in terms of results, we're talking just links, you know, any months that we haven't landed any links, absolutely. That, yeah, the type of link building we do, because we don't you know, guarantee link placements. We don't work on in a link farm or like a link network. You know, everything is very very organic and a very manual process. We may have a month where, you know, our particular strategy that we developed with our client didn't bear the fruit that we were hoping. And at that point, we need to pivot and adjust. It's not a bad thing. It means we learned something out of the campaign. And then there are other times as well where perhaps it's seasonal, or for one reason or another, we didn't get a whole lot of response back on it. You know, some articles we pitched or some sites we're reaching out to. But then what we typically see more so is in that following month that that work and that effort that we put in comes through in the following month. And that's just part of the momentum. It's kind of, I mean, it's a, link building is kind of like a contact sport. I mean, you gotta make a lot of connections and send a lot of emails out sometimes for if you're looking at, maybe a more of a resource or research-based strategy, or have very, very intentional types of topics or sites you're going after if you're looking at content. It all fluctuates a little bit, but the important thing about that is from my end, communicating with Rand every step of the way of, if I'm getting the, a hinkling here that, hey, we're not really coming up with a whole lot on this, let's talk about this a little more. I thought we might be, in a little bit better situation, having that, again, communicating, having that trust and honesty and communicating with Rand of, maybe we should look at a different route to take here, and being upfront about it, and not trying to, from my perspective, be the hero and keep Rand in the dark and try to make something happen on my end and before the end of the month comes up. Just really having that open relationship, I think.
And let me jump over to Dan real quick on the same topic, but in kind of reframing it a bit by saying, Dan, I know that you've looked at new clients that really you saw their website, you saw their content, and you knew that there's going to have to be a lot of work done before we could even start link building. What are those situations like?
Yeah, and we work together here internally. I like to get Nick and some of our other project managers involved as we're analyzing sites and looking into potential new projects, just to get some pretty honest and raw feedback on what we think we can do. As I mentioned earlier, it has to be a good fit on both sides. There are some projects that are very difficult. There are some that are, in industries that are hard to build links in naturally. There are some industries that are very saturated that make it difficult as well. So we like to get our teams involved early on to give some feedback and some, initial analysis on the potential of the site, so that we can have those, realistic and frank conversations if necessary to set that stage. But yeah, we get, all different types of sites and industries, and so we want to make sure that it's something that, one, we feel like we can have some success with. And if it is going to be difficult, that we discuss that, prior to starting, as opposed to a few months in and everybody's frustrated and we haven't seen those results. Again, going back to the importance of having good communication and setting those expectations up front.
Rand, I got a question here from Scott, and he says, how much time passed after starting with Page One Power did you start seeing some results? And you've recognized that your industry at Shred Nations is unique in its by comparison to its competitors in that marketplace. But do you recall any specific time frame?
Well, yeah, I mean, you also not only have to think about competition when you're thinking about when might I see results, or when might I be able to refer these results up the chain, or what expectations should I set with the folks that are above me that are expecting me to produce results from this, from the link campaign that we're paying for. So the other thing is it takes Google a while to even recognize these links, right? I mean, Google now brags that they can index the whole internet in a day, or less than a day, but at the same time, they don't do that. And it really depends on your website too. If you're updating your website a lot and Google's coming, to look at your website a lot, you're far more likely to get your links indexed a lot quicker. So that's another factor that I don't think people think about enough. Well, when does Google even see my links? And that can be months in my experience, and especially when you're in a niche industry like we are. you know, Google really doesn't care about our industry because there's not a lot of volume, frankly. And so, you know, for us, it was a few months. But I've seen link campaigns, you know, when I worked at the agency, take effect in weeks. So it really just depends. I think, you know, for us, we had been doing link building on a very small scale ourselves, so we kind of understood when we would start to see things. We understood that it would be, you know, 8 to 12 weeks before we would start to see rank. And we also understood that, you know, part of the factor is velocity. So, you know, you don't just build one link and leave. You know, you're building links over time to the same URL that are relevant and of high quality. And so, you know, you don't expect to see a number 20 ranking go to a number 2. You expect a number 20 to go to a number 15, to go to a number 8, to go to a number 4, to go to a number 1. And so, you know, you don't really see it over time. Again, I mentioned earlier, you're looking for a nice growth line, and that's what you get when a ranking changes steadily over time, not when it just hops to the top. I mean, that's a plateau, not a nice, you know, line. So I think it depends. I mean, it really depends. There's so many factors that go into it. You know, and you know, the algorithm is exponential, so it's a lot easier to get from 20 to 10 than it is to get from 10 to, say, 4. And so, you know, your efforts have to be compounded over time. It takes a lot more to get from that 10 spot up to the front than it does from, you know, no man's land to some man's land, so to speak. So I think it depends. For us, it was about 3 months. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much. And we've got a lot of great questions that continue to come in. I want to use our time as best we can, so thank you for submitting those, everyone. This one, coming back from Remington again, I'm going to send this question to Nick. Can you give us an example of what a link actually is in the context of link building? Would it be a blog post focuses on the client's business, or can you give some examples of the variety of links that can be generated?
Sure. So yeah, another good question, Remington. So in the context of how we build links, we do it a very natural way. For a content link, like you're right about, it would be a blog post or an article publication on a third-party site that doesn't necessarily, you know, tout about our client's business. We're not looking to promote our client's business. A lot of times we get a lot of pushback on that from website owners. So, you know, we're not reaching out to try to advertise on their website. We're writing content for the web. We're writing useful information for the users of the sites that we're targeting. And within that content, we support the content that we write through the assets that our client might have available on their site that further support any claims or information that we write about in our article. So in the context of a blog post, that's typically, you know, in a nutshell, what you can expect. Some other examples of the variety of links that we generate. When you think about link building, I'm maybe a little bit of a simpleton here, but I like to think of it in two different camps. You have content links, and then you have resource links, and there's a lot of, you know, kind of subcategories to those, but resource link you can think about as exactly as the name implies, a resource for somebody who wants to learn more about a particular subject or an industry or a product or a business that may be listed on a third-party site, or, you know, just a helpful piece of information. For I've done some campaigns in a lot in the travel niche as well, and particularly in hotels. And we've found a lot of interesting websites that list resource links. You know, one being, I think my favorite, you know, little vein to go in with those with the team for building resource links is funeral homes list a lot of, you know, hotels in the area, places to stay, and they're good links. They're hyper local links that help with not only your organic rankings but local search as well. And that's just kind of one thing that we find through doing research for resource links, that finding relevant sites that could be that might list a helpful resource for our clients, places to stay in the area, accommodations, lodging, and hotels in the area. So yeah, back to the original question. So in the types of links that we build, and in the context of how P1P does it, and with content, it's very natural place content on the web that is for the benefit of people reading the content and not for promoting websites. And the resource side of it is, again, providing a useful resource for people that may be looking for additional information on a particular subject or a business or a product.
So thank you. I appreciate the time taken there to to boil it down to what it is we're actually doing, and the fact that it doesn't sell the client's product, but it is useful to the end user of whether it's reading an article or useful information. Just basically that connection from one point to another in the internet that makes things convenient and makes sense from one page to the next. But next question, Molly, she asks, I think, the big question of the day. I'll give her a gold star on this one, because this is what we were talking about in planning this webinar, and that is, I'll send this to you, Rand. What are the most important points to explain when you're trying to educate executives, marketing directors, etc., about why SEO can have such unpredictable results? How do you talk to the stakeholders who are hesitant to invest in a relatively unpredictable channel?
Yeah, I think there's a few things there, and ultimately, I see the onus lying upon the internal employee. So that would be myself, or whoever Page One Power's liaison is within the organization that they're partnering with. And there's a few reasons for that. One is you obviously have the relationship with your higher ups. Of course, if Nick or Dan get on the phone, then it's going to be, oh, well, yeah, they're just trying to keep my business and keep my money. Whereas, if you're the internal person, you can you have the relationship in a way that you are supposed to be impartial and say, hey, this is working and here's why, and so on and so forth. I think ultimately you have to be doing link building. And if there's any question as to whether you have to be doing link building, there is plenty of very, very reliable sources that are out there that tell you have to be doing link building. Although Google will say that link building is dead and you should just let other people link to your content, that's great. I will be the first to say, well, not the first to say, anybody that knows SEO at all knows that's complete BS. So you have to be doing link building. That's the first argument. You have to, and here's why, and here's all the people that know internet marketing that are reliable telling you that you need to. That's A. B, ultimately the onus is on you to provide the information that the higher ups are looking for. So if they're looking for revenue from link building, then you need to find that revenue. And if you don't have the systems that are there to do that, you need to find the systems that are there to do that. And I think, the agency's role, or Page One Power's role, is to say, hey, here's what we can provide you. Here's how we might be able to help answer that question from those people that are asking the questions. And I think, again, you need to openly communicate, hey, this link building thing is coming into question, Nick. In my case, it would be Nick. And here's why. How can you help me, or what would you say to that? What can you provide to me to show that we are growing, to show that we are doing? And ultimately, being the liaison between an agency and the people you have to report to, is an important job, because you have to know how to communicate with Nick, but you also have to know what your higher-ups are looking for. And in the same sense, you have to be able to set expectations both ways, right? Your higher-ups are saying, I want $10,000 tomorrow for my $2,000 investment, and you're saying, look, we're not even going to be able to measure this for 8 to 12 weeks. That's how this works, to your higher-up. And on the other end, you're telling Nick, look, if we can get some results before 8 to 12 weeks so that I can show them, that would be great. So you really have a challenging job as a liaison, because you have to set expectations both ways, and you have to be honest and have those conversations both ways. But ultimately, it relies upon you with the support of the agency to say, this is what we're doing and this is how we're growing.
Thank you, Rand. Appreciate that insight, and we're going to wrap this up with one final question. We're stepping into the white hat, black hat world here. Randy, he asks, as an SEO specialist for a local digital agency, I see our direct competitors continue to use black hat link building techniques with their clients. These techniques continue to work, and I don't see Google penalizing the websites. This is frustrating because our agency builds authoritative links. What are your thoughts on the continued use of black hat linking techniques? How can a white hat agency compete against this? Does anybody want to volunteer to jump on this?
I can definitely jump on that, because I love the black hat, white hat conversation. I don't believe in hats. I believe in what works. I'll just say that. There are black hats and there are white hats, and there are people that say we're completely white hat, and there are people that gladly admit that they're black hat. But to be honest, if you're doing anything that works, you're probably gray, because if you believe Google's gospel, go ahead, but you're probably having trouble competing. So that would be my first comment on that. How do you compete with black hat? It's hard for me to tell without knowing what you consider black hat.
Right.
But I would say, ultimately, if it's really black hat, it's going to get caught. Whether it gets caught now, or you're frustrated now, or in a week, or later. I'll give you an example. We have a competitor that does straight black hat stuff, like really bad black hat stuff, keyword stuffing, like Ukrainian link farm type black hat stuff, and they always get hit. It's like a 3-month perpetual cycle. They'll build a new website, they will build a bunch of Ukrainian links, it'll rank, and then 3 to 6 months later it gets hammered, and then they'll build another website and build them more, and that's their business model. Literally, that's what they do.
Baby.
Yeah, I mean, churn and burn. So, ultimately they're going to get caught. I'm actually a big fan of, there's the saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. I'm actually a big fan of reaching out to them and getting to know them and understanding them and things like that. And the reason for that is they might give you some insight. They might give you never know what somebody's going to tell you, and you only know what you know. So for me, if it were me, I'd say, hey, competitor XYZ, how are you? I'm such and such. These kinds of relationships are good to have too. So I like saying, hey, black hat competitor, I'd like to be your friend. We should talk and go to lunch sometime. That'd be fun. And I actually have quite a few relationships like that. Our biggest competitor from, we do lead generation. So our biggest competitor is an SEO agency that specializes in our niche. And I've been out and had many drinks and many dinners with the guy that owns that agency. And we have a pretty good relationship, even though we're foes. And I've learned a lot from those conversations. And so, I would say if you think you're completely white hat, you're probably not. And just because Google says that it's against their guidelines or it's, don't do that, usually when Google says don't do that, that means you can do it and manipulate their system. So, I mean, don't subscribe to the black and white hat thing. It's really not. You should try to produce results. And I'm not saying go out and do negative SEO. I'm not saying do unethical things. I'm saying do things that work, would be my answer.
And I'll send this over to Dan, just because, when Dan gives a price quote of our services, the first thing the first question he's fielding is, why do these other people that say they offer the same service cost so much less? And Dan, you've been in the business for a while. What say you on the black hat competitors? Still with us. Dan's on mute, everyone. But that's okay.
I could probably jump in on that. When I think about it, it's kind of funny. I just kind of exist in a different world now. Working in projects, just kind of always having my hands in things, and the conversations about black hat and white hat. Now I feel like it's really. I don't know. Like Rand said, I think there's more gray area than anything else. But when I think of black hat, I think of it very blatant, spam, like the churn and burn, old school 2010, 2011 tactics. And the truth is that, yeah, to some degree it does work, but it's not sustainable. Really, if you want to have rankings in the long term and sustained rankings, there is some degree of you got to teeter a little more on the side of what people will consider white hat, I suppose. And what that means to me is quality and relevancy. That's one thing that's very apparent in Google, and that makes sense too. The kind of old school tactics, keyword stuffing, span thousands and thousands of links on weird directories that have nothing to do with your business, or maybe it's a directory that lists every industry known to man on the website. Yeah, that's spammy stuff, but and it may work in the short term, but I from my experience, it's certainly not sustainable, and you shouldn't be seeing competitors continuously beating you out in that sense. But then again, every niche is a little different. The finance niche, in car insurance and things like that, you have the big players in there that are always going to be at the top of the search results, and everybody's fighting for a small piece of pie. So if you're getting beat out by your competitor down the street who's doing black hat, chances are they probably won't be around too long. But the important thing is doing things the right way, and finding good tactics that do secure good quality relevant links. That's, Rand, when we're all discussing this, he mentioned this the other day, if you're building links and you're building good quality links, there's no way that they are not going to bear fruit at some point in time. Google's built on good links, and the more the algorithm becomes sophisticated, like we've seen with, the recent Penguin update, the more susceptible I think, your, black hat techniques are going to become less effective over time. We've seen that, and so that's my perspective on it. Again, I'm more in the production side of things than discussing black and white hat too often anymore. But that's based on results I've seen with lots of different projects that I've managed, and results that I've seen, and different industries. And it's it's always an interesting conversation, that's for sure.
Well, gentlemen, we are out of time. I want to circle back and just thank Rand very much, just taking time out of your day to join us here today and share with us some of your experience, and appreciate all the audience being with us as well. we are, we just took this nice group photo yesterday. So we just want to say thank you from Page One Power. And follow up with us, please, on Twitter using the hashtag P1P webinar. If you have additional questions, we'd be happy to reach out to you there, or give us a call direct. Visit the website. If you've got questions about what you're doing in your own link building efforts, if you've got questions about your site's organic traffic, visit our blog. And the Linkerati blog is a huge resource of years worth of experience, and also covers just about every topic in SEO. With that, I will say goodbye, and once again, thank you, Rand. Have a good afternoon in Denver.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Bye.